Right, so that's actually really useful that I'm not doing. All right, so it's recording. The audio is on. All right, so we'll get started with the video. Let's go ahead and share right space here. All right, so scripting, we're done with this one. This week, services and system administration. As I said, I have a lot of files in here, I realize. I'm going to break this module into two just to make it a little bit more, but just be aware you're kind of responsible for all of these, okay? So that's the first thing I'm going to do. So today is a lab, and I don't plan to lecture that much. It's more of a catch-up lab. So if anyone is at this point at week 3 kind of stuck, you need to ask questions, so it'll just be something pretty, some little scripts and things. But let's take a look at the calendar also. All right, so we've got. Yeah, I took attendance already. All right, so let's take a look at the calendar. Okay, so if you've missed one attendance, it's fine, as long as you're sure that over the 3 weeks, I had you like one time on every week. That's enough. I mean, if you've missed all 3 weeks, obviously I'm going to have to report you. But if you've missed like once a week, I don't really care. I mean, you can watch the videos later. All right, so this is week 3, the Unix way. I uploaded that video on Tuesday. That one's up to date. Today, as you can see, Linux services, packet analysis and Wireshark. All right, and some additional scripting. Okay, so that's what we're doing today, kind of just wrapping up some things. Then next week, we start the cron topic, which is a very nice and interesting topic there. All right, so let's go ahead. And so let's focus on this. I'm going to go back to Brightspace. And this is our module, services and tools for our system administration. So what we have here is the Unix way. This is what I covered on Tuesday. There's also some slides here. Take a look at those. These are not, remember, some slides I don't cover in class because they're very well explained in the slides. This is from your book, the managerial book for sysadmin. Just make sure you read through it. Okay, make sure you know all the terminology. It's nothing technical really, so it's just some ideas of things, what they are. So definitely just read through it. Okay. You can see there it talks about servers. It talks a little bit about hardware, managing servers, all that stuff. So certainly you can read through it. Yeah, so as I said, it's got a lot of little things in there. This is loading very slowly. Okay. Okay. Okay, so as I said, just most of it is just for the terminology. Read through it. It's got some good definitions there, reminders of things. Then we've got services. That's actually the main topic that we've been discussing this week, right? And we talked about the role of a server. We'll have a daemon running in the background. It's associated with a port number, and that defines the role of the server, the Linux server in our case. Okay, so let's go. So services, take a read through that. Right, so read through all, the steps. It's got the examples. Okay. And then monitoring, that's something that we're going to talk about. Some of these concepts we've already discussed in the lecture. All right. So as I said, read through that one. Should be a, a light read. No big problem. Now, let's take a look at these two documents. Will relate to the homework assignment. And then there's the Wireshark. And what I'm going to do is read the attached Wireshark, follow the instructions, and analyze the corresponding pickups. The middle one page summary. Yeah, so these three, I'm going to break up into one assignment, into one module. Okay, so let's talk about that first, actually. So I'm going to download this to my downloads. I'm also going to download this. I'm gonna, that way it's a little bit easier to read. So now I'm gonna delete these and I'm just gonna create a new module for this. Topic. So I noticed that Brightspace is pretty slow today. All right, so let's go over here to the table of contents now, and let's just talk about this assignment. This assignment is not every week. You won't have this type of an assignment every week, but you will have it every so often. Okay, you will have an assignment. I'm going to create a module here, services and tools for essay. I'm going to call it Wireshark. Reading 1. And as the name implies, these are just reading assignments. So they should be pretty straightforward. Let's go over here. So Wireshark reading assignment number 1, okay? So actually, when you have a Wireshark reading, that's on top of the other problems that I assigned. But they are simple because they're just little summaries. So let's do, so this is the week, services and tools. As you see, I just kind of moved it out. And so now I'll talk a little bit about what you have to do, but it should be kind of fun. So I'm going to upload the files. It's gonna be the PCAP, the captures, and also the Wireshark reading assignment. Okay, so they should be. Of course, it's extremely slow. So what you're gonna have to do with this is you'll see in a second that it's a PDF that I've scanned, and I've kind of made some notes on the PDF. You have to read through it, right? And usually what it's doing is explaining something about a tool that you could use as a sysadmin called Wireshark. The first reading assignment just kind of shows you the tool. Going forward in the semester, it'll show cases. So for instance, it'll show, okay, what if you had a slow printer? You know, how could you take a look at the network data to get a feel for why the printer is slow? Do you guys see that? Or it might be something like Facebook is slow. And so you might, again, look at the network data and figure it out. So the way that it works is you read the PDF, but there's also an associated PCAP set of PCAP files. So in the document, it'll say, okay, load the PCAP files with this name. So you have to look for that PCAP file. You'll do this, of course, on the VM on C. You just turn on the Wireshark. So I'll show you today where Wireshark is. It's already installed, so you don't even have to install it. You'll open up Wireshark. You'll load the PCAP file as instructed in the PDF, and then just follow along. So it basically just says, now click here, now click here, and it'll point out all the different, different features basically of Wireshark. Oh, so what's going on? Okay, there it is. All right, so here is Brightspace. You can see here, these files are the PCAPs. I will only load them once, okay, here. And then as we move in the semester, whenever I give you a Wireshark reading 1, 2, 3, just refer back to these because this zip file contains all of them. Let's take a look at the PDF real quick. Yes, that's a good question. Do you need to use Wireshark on Linux or Windows? Here it doesn't matter, but I would recommend that you stick with Linux, right? That's the whole point of this course. You have many other courses for Windows. Use this one for Linux exclusively, so that the whole point is for you to develop some comfort level with it. Instead of having this, you guys almost have this like reflex. You have this reflex of, oh, I can get away from it and go to Windows. Don't do that. Force yourself. Eventually, you will start to value Linux and be less afraid of it. All right. So anyway, this is the document. As you can see, it's pretty nice and funny. You can go through it. It'll explain things nicely. And it's just, as I said, a very light read. You only need to create a one-page summary, okay? That's it. One-page summary of this. You can have 1 or 2 screenshots. Obviously, you need to read it and understand it really well to kind of know, what's the most important thing. But it should be fun. It shows the graphs. A lot of this class, as you will see later in the semester, is about monitoring the systems, right? So you can see even the information gathering script was about collecting data. As we move on later, you'll see when we talk about protocols like SNMP, CACD, PySNMP, all that, you will see that it's a very important theme in managing networks, in monitoring with automation. So we'll talk about all that. Anyway, that's the PDF. Okay, so read through it. That will be your reading assignment for this week. As I said, I won't do this every time, but certainly today. I'm going to add the link here. I had copied this. Yeah, there it is. So this is homework. Wireshark read 1. Okay, so these are very easy points to get. This will be due on the 3rd by 10 p.m. And it starts now until the 5th. Okay. Now basically I wrote, read the attached Wireshark PDF, follow the instructions and analyze the corresponding .pcap files. Submit a one-page summary of your reading. I think that's clear enough. So I'm gonna all right. So that is that. So that assignment is taken care of, and you are now responsible for it. The next one is we're gonna focus on here. So now there's fewer files, which just makes it easier for me. We have here, as I said, the 2 slides, and then there are 2 documents, which will be 2 separate submissions. I like the breakup submissions. It just makes it easier for me to assign weights to the difficulty of the homework. So let's start with this one. This one should be pretty easy. Lab services and tools, Word document, and this will relate to Linux commands, okay? They're kind of linked. So I'm going to click on this one. Okay, it's loading. So let me actually, I'm going to download this file instead of loading it like that. So let me download both of these. Okay, so now I'm gonna open up the first lab services and just share the document with you guys. So let's do that. Okay, so you should now be seeing the Word doc. So this is, you should be seeing this Word document. So sysadmin lab, this is gonna be, since I broke this up, so this is just gonna be lab services, okay, or services. Okay, so I'm gonna take out the PCAP because this is already somewhere else. All right, so your lab content is just basically running, just like we've done in the past. You know, I like to do this every now and then. I give you a list of Linux commands related to a specific topic, and it's kind of like you know, a quest, right? Go ahead and basically explore it. These are exploration labs, if you will. So this one relates to network stats, services, device hardening, which I'm sure you have heard. Device hardening is a security idea. Who can tell me what device hardening means as it relates to a system?
Just making it harder to breach.
Sure, but how? I agree, but how?
You just implement different security features, and that would technically count as hardening the device.
Well,
hardening is just used as like a way to say secure.
Well, in order to harden a device, you want to find out your device's vulnerabilities so you can implement plans to patch up your device's vulnerabilities, or if you can't fix a vulnerability with your device, find some sort of alternative measure.
All right, so tell me, how do you harden it?
Well, you'd want to use, an example, you could use Wireshark to look through the open ports on your computer. Well, you don't need to use Wireshark for that, but you can. The best way to do it, I think, would be you have someone who has skills hacking a computer, hacking a network.
So you're saying,
for you.
I'm not gonna do it. I'm gonna spend several $1,000s. I'm gonna hire somebody to do it for me.
Oh,
give me one easy thing to harden a device. Just think about it. You kind of touched on it. What's one easy thing? Updates, sure. You can update. That's it. And you said that actually. Very good one, Jake. Close unused ports. That's it. Just do that. Don't, that's usually device hardening. Just close the unused ports. Don't have a ton of ports open. Don't have HTTP and SSH and FTP and all these services running, gaming things, which can be vulnerable actually because they open ports for collaborative things. Do you guys understand? So actually,
yes.
when we talk about services, as we are doing today, right, or we've been doing that this week, daemons and everything, it's important from a security point of view because the more services you start, the more ports you have open. The more ports you have open, the more vectors of danger you have, right? And so close the ports. Device hardening, simplest thing without hiring anyone or any complicated thing, just start closing ports. Unused ports. Obviously, if you need a port, well, then that's a different story. All right, anyway, good answer. So now, just like before, I've written down a set of questions, commands. You have seen me use some of these commands already. Go through the commands, answer the questions, and do outputs. It'll show you how to do different things related to, you know, managing your Linux box. Do you guys understand? It should be pretty straightforward. This should say 2004. Okay. And then, yeah, that should be it. Are there any questions on this assignment, on this Word doc? Pretty easy, right? So let me load this one, and I'll provide the assignment for you as well. So as you can see, this one's pretty easy. So it'll be, yeah, this one. So I'm going to delete because I just made an update to it. I'm going to delete this file. Okay, and I'm going to load it now. All right, so I'm going to say then here, I'm going to create a new assignment. This document I just added, it's called Services and Tools. So Linux commands, complete the attached Linux commands, hand out, answer the questions, and provide screenshots to show evidence of your work. Yeah. So that's exactly what I'm going to use. I just have to delete this one because this is last year's. All right, so now I'm going to create the assignment for it. All right, complete the attached Linux commands handout, answer the questions, and provide screenshots to show evidence of your work. This is homework. Linux commands. And this will also be due on the 3rd. So you can start working on this one today. And now, and it'll stay open until the 5th. And that's it. So let's go back to table of contents. All right, so there you have it. You've got now 2 homework assignments, right? Wireshark reading, it's there, and then the Linux commands, which are, kind of straightforward. Now the next one is the one where I have to discuss a little bit more because it's going to be a scripting one. Let me get rid of this. So the problems, let's see here. Write Python scripts for the following 3 problems. My Nmap, if you remember, we started working on that last week, right? Complete the port scanner code as described during lab, scan several IPs and port numbers, and show if they are open or closed, right? So we'll go back to that script today, and I'll see if I need to give you anything else. Otherwise, you guys will have to finish it. Has anyone finished that script already? No? All right, then we have a file permissions program. So I'll provide also some information for that one. And then you will also need to solve the case called the cuckoo's egg, which should be a fun one. All right, so these are the 3 scripts that you'll be responsible for this week. So now let's take a look at them. Let me actually just copy this and create the new assignment. All right, now for this one, we will be looking at the scripting examples case document. So I'm going to delete that. And let's open the Word document. So let me share it. All right, so this is that document that I was talking about with the 3 problems. So I will add here what you have to do. Right? So write Python scripts for the following 3 problems: my nmap, file permissions, and solve the attached cuckoo's egg. Right? So these are the 3 problems. And so cuckoo's egg is actually here. This is the case that we're going to be looking at. And then you just, it's basically some kind of a problem that I'll kind of state. And then you guys will come up with a simple solution of how you could deal with it. Okay, and then I'll just provide the basic functionality for it. So that's the document. Let me save it. So the first problem we're going to get into today is my nmap. Right, so we'll go back to that. There. So now I'm going to add it here. There it is. So is it clear, guys, what you have to do? Any questions? Crystal clear. All right, great. So let me just add the one assignment for you to submit this one. I'll just say scripting examples. I'll call this one. So let's create a new assignment. So homework. Scripting problem. Complete the attached. Was it 3 problems? Complete the attached 3 scripting problems. All right. Again, this one will be due on the 3rd at 10 p.m. And now, and it'll stay open until the 5th. Complete the attached 3 scripting problems, and that should be it. All right, so your homework assignments are assigned, and now you know what you need to, you're responsible for, the dates and everything. So basically these 2 modules over here. So now that we are there, let me walk you through those 3 scripting problems. Let's just kind of go in order. So let's start with that nmap problem. Let's just see if there's anything else that I need to give you. So let's kind of do a bit of a recap. All right, so I'm going to start my my VM, virtual machine. So let me start the VM here. All right. Start the VM. Okay, let me share the screen. Okay, and I may have run the wrong one. Hold on. Give me a sec, sorry. Again, how this. Okay, hold on. I opened a wrong VM and it captured my mouse in the thing. Okay, I don't remember. Guys, can you hear me?
Yep.
Guys, can you hear me?
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna have to restart my machine. This thing got stuck and I can't get out of it. So just give me a second. I'm gonna restart the machine and then I'll come back, okay? All right, no, I don't have to restart it. I'm out. Okay, can you guys hear me? Okay.
Yeah, we can hear you.
All right, great. All right, so sorry, but I'm out. Let me start the correct VM. All right, there we go. So now you should be seeing the correct VM. So let's log in. All right, so. Okay, good. So now let's open up a terminal. And let's navigate to the desktop. And ITS 372. Spring 2022. All right, and then the scripts that we have here, my port scanner is the script that we were looking at. So my port scanner. Right, this is what we were looking at the other day. So for this one, let's see, I think we got as far as the socket module, right? So we had we imported Scapy, which is a library for networking. And then we had a dictionary of services and the corresponding port numbers. And then we did something like this where we were trying to establish a connection. Okay, so the goal then to build a port scanner is really to be able to iterate through a list of IPs and ports and make the connection, right? So what I'm gonna do now is, so we did connection. Now, one thing that you might want to consider when doing this, because otherwise it's going to break, it could break, is to do the try except. Try except is like the try catch in other programming languages. It basically means you're going to run a command. So for instance, you would run, remember the indentation here, 1, 2, 3, 4. You would run s.connect here, right? If you run s.connect here, then as you're looping through the individual IPs and port numbers, the connection, even if it doesn't work here, it's not going to break the loop. It's just going to continue to the next step. So then here, 1, 2, 3, 4, all we want to say is something like pass or provide an error, you know, depending on the error, what it is. But it basically, the goal is so it doesn't break. So because if you have a for loop, and you're just doing this and you get to a third IP and it doesn't work, it's going to break. Does this make sense, guys? This idea, this structure? All right, so that's something that I would recommend that you use for your problem, for your solution. And then, so now, you might want to do a function if you'd like of how you want to do it, but I leave that to you. So for instance, now the thing that you will need to do finally for this to work is to have a list of ports like that, etc., and a list of IPs. Like that. So an IP, just like it takes it there, so 127.0.0.1, and then 192.168.1.2. You'll have to provide your own IPs. Remember, if you're scanning things, don't scan the school's network or don't scan networks that you don't have permission to scan. Okay, so the VM environment, etc. And then let's put another one in here. 192.168.1.3, for instance. Right. So once you have these lists, it's as simple as a couple of for loops. So for IP in list of IPs, 1, 2, 3, 4, for port in list of ports, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you're just going to run this one. But I would recommend that you probably put this in a function. So define scan function, right? Something like that. And then in this function, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. You'll obviously need to return something. You'll have to think about that. And then here you'll provide the IP and the port number. So then these will plug in here as IP port. Okay, which means in your for loop, then you're going to make a call to scan function. So you're going to say scan function, and then you're going to plug in the corresponding IP, corresponding port, and you just have to make that work. Okay, that's basically that script. That's your you know, your simple my scanning script. Does this make sense? Are there any questions on this one?
Yeah, can you scroll back down one more time?
Sure. Like I said, this is homework, so I'm only giving you a little bit of it, or most of it actually, but just I want you to make it work. Take these pieces and make it work. I'm not giving you like trick code or anything, right? So just make it work. Any other questions?
So we just need to put the IP addresses of the network we're actually scanning in there.
That's right. Obviously, it's got to be real IPs. When I see the output, I need to see that you scan some ports and they show open or closed.
Got it. Could we use our own computer's IP address?
Yeah, your own computers, like your local host and maybe one more, the physical machine. Make sure, obviously, that you open a few ports. You might want to do like a netstat or an nmap so I can see the ones that are open. And then with your script, and that way you compare. You say, hey, here's with nmap, you can see here they are. And here's with my scanner, you can see it's pretty much the same thing.
Gotcha.
Does that make sense, guys?
Yes. Thank you.
Okay, so, all right, so now, that one is complete, right? So are there any questions on this? No? All right, so let's move on then to the next problem. So I'm giving you pretty much a lot there. Now, if we go back to Brightspace, let's do this over here. Scripting, yeah, so we're here. Services and tools. Is it this one? Yeah. So let's take a look at this document again. So let's look at the second problem. So the second problem says to file permissions, complete the file permissions code as described in line. All right, so I'm going to give you another little problem to work on. Should be pretty straightforward, not difficult. But this one, you know, I kind of have to do this one because I spent a lot of time talking about access control this week, right? So we spent a lot of time talking about that, the permissions, etc. So we are going to do a little access control example. Let's see. All right, and for this one, we are going to be using, you're familiar with these already, so let me actually just do Nano access control. So basically, we're just going to do a very simple script that's going to check the permissions. All right, so as you guys can see here, these are our permissions over here, right? And so we're going to run scripts that look in a folder, look at files, and then it's going to report back the permissions associated with these, right? And that's basically all you have to do. So you have to, again, provide some evidence that it works. So run it on your on your folder, look at the permissions. So how would we do something like this? Let's create a little script. And of course, if you want to do more with it, go ahead. I'm only doing very simple things. So, you know, the two libraries that we know of already. So now what do we want to do? Let's say you have a file, so file name, right? So now you already know how to grab all the files from a folder, create a list, right? We did that in directory listing. So same technique, use that to iterate through all the files in the directory and now print out the permissions so that you can view them. So you're going to save, you know, so I'm going to leave this blank for you guys to figure out, and I'm only going to do the example for one. So then you need to check all the permissions, but you can print out basically things like this. So you can say if not os.path dot is file name, right? So this will check if something is a file. So if not os path is file name, right? You're gonna print out it's not a file. You see that? 1, 2, 3, 4. You know, you can do something like print file does not exist. Okay. Now, now for the permissions, OS has a way of doing that, right? And you can, I'm just going to give an example here. So if not os.access, notice we're talking about access control. And then now you can specify the file name, right? Comma, and then os dot r okay. You see that? Oops. And this should be capitalized. So what are these? That this R is the things that the file modes that we learned about on Tuesday. Read, write, exit, right? And then you can check to see if these are valid or not valid. So here we have, for instance, this is just an example for one. Obviously, you have to do this for all of them, okay? So I'm just gonna do this for one now. So here we're gonna say 1, 2, 3, 4, print, and this, you know, that would return true or false. So we're gonna say print access denied. You see that? So that's the idea. So you will have to figure out through the OS the permissions of a file. Okay. Does this make sense, guys? So let's run it just for one file. I'm gonna say for loops UI. I'm going to say for loops py. All right. And now let's run this script, control X, Y, Python. Oh, Python 3. Let's think of the logic. I think it worked, but if it's not, it does not exist. Well, it does exist, right? So, and if not OS access, then print access denied, but we did have access to it. You see what happened? So if I change the logic now and I say, if it's okay, and if it's file, print file does exist. All right, so control X, Y. And there you go, file does exist, access is allowed. Does this make sense, guys?
Yeah.
So what you have to do though, in this example is you have to basically check all the permissions and just print out all the permissions. So just take a look at it. This would be nice if you were, wanted to write scripts and just get information about access control. I'm not asking you to change anything. So no need to like chmod, and although you could do that with Subversion, all I'm asking that you do is view, monitor, and print out basically all the permissions for all the files. Some of them have permissions, others don't. Now you could do, like you could piece together all the permissions and then print out the permissions that are allowed as well. Okay. All right, so this one's not about open ports. This is about access control. Okay.
Can you share your code for this one more time?
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
But are there any questions about this problem and what you need to do? So you should understand, because we covered it in class on Tuesday, that we're talking about read, write, execute, right? Those permissions. So you have to think about it and expand it as much as you want. Okay. Any questions? All right, if that made sense, then let's take a look at the next one. So I'm gonna do, let's go back to Brightspace now. And let's read the last one. The last one is a little bit more involved, of course. So now that you know, those were just warm up. So the third, solve the attached case, the cuckoo's egg, right? Cuckoo's egg. So let's take a look at the cuckoo's egg here. Setting this, so let me make sure you guys are seeing this. Yeah. All right, so this one should be an interesting one. It's kind of a security related one, and US system administrators, you know, you're the system administrator, so you would have to kind of try to figure out how to do this. Okay. All right, so setting the stage for your first Python program, the cuckoo's egg. So a system administrator at Lawrence Berkeley National Labs, Clifford Stoll, documented his personal hunt for a hacker and KGB informant who broke into various United States national research laboratories, army bases, defense contractors, and academic institutions in the cuckoo's egg, tracking a spy through the maze of computer espionage. And I think there's a book about that. So if you guys like this kind of, there's like a novel type of thing. He also published an article in Communications of the ACM describing the in-depth technical details of the attack and hunt. What's great about all these things is that you can solve them usually just by writing some Python code. Fascinated by the attacker's methodology and actions, Stoll connected a printer to a compromised server and logged every keystroke the attacker made. During one recording, Stoll noticed something interesting. Almost immediately after compromising a victim, the attacker downloaded the encrypted password file. Okay, remember that password file, there's a passwd, and then there's the shadow file. And in the shadow file, you have the passwords, and the passwords have been encrypted. So almost immediately after compromising a victim, the attacker downloaded the encrypted password file. So the question is, what use was this to the attacker, right? You know, after all, the victim systems encrypted the user password using a Unix crypt algorithm. So what's the point of stealing encrypted passwords? However, within a week of stealing the encrypted password files, Stoll would see that the attacker would come back and log on with the stolen accounts. So something was happening. Now, so what was the problem? So confronting some of the victim users, he learned that they had used very common words from the dictionary as passwords. So they were probably typing in like password, egg, things like that, right? So upon learning this, Stoll realized that the hacker had used a dictionary attack to decrypt the encrypted passwords. The hacker enumerated through all the words in a dictionary and encrypted them using the same Unix crypt function. After encrypting each password, the attacker would compare what he generated with the stolen encrypted passwords. And whenever he had a match, obviously, because he knew the original word he encrypted, he could decipher, okay, that's the password. All right, so the match translated to a successful password crack. Consider the following encrypted password file. You can see this example. This is just what we saw some time ago, cat etc passwd, right? So you remember, you can have in passwd the passwords, or they're usually going to be in shadow file. However, for this example, I don't need you to use the actual passwords from passwd. Just generate your own text file, okay? And then go through the exercise. What I really want you is to practice the scripting part. So consider the following encrypted password file, right? Like this one. The victim uses a plain text password, egg, an assault, which is just an additional little thing that's added to the encryption, to and salt equal to the first 2 bytes or HX. The Unused crypt function calculates the encrypted password just by running this command. So egg plus that, and now it gives you the encrypted password, okay? So now what I want you to do is you're gonna use this case as an opportunity to write your first, your own from scratch Python script. So I'm not gonna give you any code for this one, but basically you're going to implement a Unix password cracker. The only thing that I will give you for this exercise is obviously the crypt function, so that you have that one. Okay. Now also keep in mind the algorithms used to encrypt something in Linux may be, SHA-256 version, so on and so on. You have to use the consistent encryption algorithm, otherwise it won't work, obviously. So what I'm going to suggest is that just use the same crypt function to generate the dictionary of encrypted passwords and also the real ones. That way you'll have the same encryption, okay? I'm really just looking for your logic there. Does that make sense, guys? Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah, it makes sense.
So that's it. So that's your problem. So let me just give you very simply how we could do this, right? So, and then I'll leave the rest of the time for you guys to either ask questions or work on the lab. So I'm gonna do this. So now let's open, let me clear Python. Oh, yeah, Python. And then let's import the crypt function. There it is. We have crypt now, so we can go ahead and encrypt things with it. So we can just do crypt.crypt, and there's your password, egg, for instance, and you give it a hash. Just make sure that the hash is something that you would be able to steal as well. So don't worry about it. You just assume you have it. And so you just use HX, in fact, for everything. And then now, you see that? That's the encrypted version of egg. Now you have to write the logic, assume, so one text file that you're gonna generate is just a whole bunch of passwords like this, right? You're gonna have all of those. Then you're gonna generate your other file as if you're trying to figure it out. In loops, you're gonna compare them. When you have a match in the encrypted version, boom, you have your original one, because you kind of, because the users have used common names for their passwords. And that's it. That's the 3 problems. Are there any questions on any of these?
So are we gonna make 2 text files? Like
That's
one
right.
text file with the actual passwords and another with the correct.
Okay. One of the reasons this problem is about that. I want you to think about all these things, but yeah, you're right. One text file is the one you stole, only encrypted passwords. The other one is the one that you use your dictionary for your dictionary attack, and then you need to compare the values in both. Yes, exactly. Got it?
Got it.
All right, good. That's all right. So So that's it. So I'm gonna stop the recording. And then if you have any questions, so I'm gonna stop the recording right now.